Radical intimacy. That's something you don't hear every day.
Radical intimacy. How can I define that? Like really good intimacy? No, I'm kidding.
I've heard that term a lot lately. I'm actually not too sure what it means. Tell me.
Radical intimacy just sounds really cool. I love that the idea of intimacy can be radical because I think all intimacy is radical.
It's not sexual. It is connection. It's not lusting. It's actually connecting with someone on a physical level, on a spiritual level.
It's understanding space, right? It's an understanding yourself within that space. So when I'm in this particular space, when I'm at home, I feel like this is an intimate setting because this is my home. So when I invite people in, what happens in that home can be really radical.
When I go to work, it's a heteronormative space. When I go party and I go to a bar, it's a heteronormative space. So my life has been kind of being a queer Asian in a heteronormative white world.
The idea of a very private nuclear family of one man, one woman, and children are entirely parented just by the two parents. So that's like maybe normative intimacy for me, and I feel that I really much want to connect with elders and also young people who are not of my kin. And I think because I'm striving for that kind of intimacy, it is radical. And I'm also not doing it just within my ethnic group and not just people who speak Chinese, but also people who speak other languages.
When I first started in Success, I still had long hair, so I wasn't as visibly queer as I am now. I was there for a year, and then I was done with that. I chopped all my hair off. And then the seniors were like, who knew me, oh my God, what did you do with your hair? It looks terrible. You look like a guy or something.
I came out 3 years after we moved to Canada. I not only didn't have that kind of stable background in the Philippines, you know, like family's your number one. I'm an only child too, so that's kind of, like, that was kind of like the extra. It's like, what? No grandkids? I could adopt, I don't know.
Right now, I define myself as a queer woman of color. But I also identify along the lines of being a feminist, of being someone who believes in equal rights for all people.
So queer is a term that the community has been taking back. A lot of people still don't use it because it still is offensive to some people, but it is also a lot easier than saying LGBTQ all the time.
I think someone who's ever just kind of gender fluid, everyone's a little queer and everyone's a little straight. If you weren't straight being a queer man, how can you be like, Beyonce looks so hot in that dress? Because she does. She looked really sizzling hot at the Grammys, and that straight part of me somewhere is admitting that.
People would know me as somebody who is out, but I actually find that the whole closet and out dichotomy isn't that simple. In fact, it's almost as though coming out as gay and then coming out as queer is very much just entering a different room in a maze.
I am not just a woman. I'm not just a person of color. I'm not just a queer identified person. But those things all intersect, so I am a queer woman of color because my day-to-day reality is impacted by these intersections of identities. And so these different layers add nuance and complexity into how I navigate the world. I love intersectionality. That is one of the most profound and important theories I've ever kind of come across.
I do, at the end, identify queer as something that came out of a response to the oppression that stems from Euro-colonial modernity. Being able to ground myself in the knowledge I'm learning from different ancestors, we're able to come about to learn about where we've come from and where we are now.
What makes me get out of bed every morning? I would love to say myself. Lately, it's been my parents, because I really want to, I guess it's I hate saying this line, but maybe it's an immigrant thing. I feel like I owe them a lot just because they came here and they raised me and they gave up so many things, like their cushy jobs, and they gave up their lives and seeing their friends every day and seeing their relatives every day. And I couldn't imagine seeing my mom, not seeing my dad. It would make me really sad. And one of my biggest fears is maybe them dying and me not being able to give them the life that I want to give them before they die. So that makes me get out of bed every single morning.
What would be nice is if people could really see same-sex love as equal and a good option, and people can look beyond that, because Katie, she was never gay, and still not. She's what do you mean by that? Well, she's attracted. No, it's okay.
At most bi, but with a very limited, what's the term? Like, if I was to be attracted, yeah, if I was to be attracted
Consisting of me
to women, it would be basically a small range of qualifications. If I was to be attracted to women at all, to most people, I need to explain it, but you know, I like her, I'm dating her because it's just, I like her personality, that's what attracted me. It's nothing to the gender, nothing due to anything else really. It's just her inner beauty that is attractive.
It's interesting because I've always felt different, but I also think that everyone feels like they're different. I feel like that's something that that narrative of individualism is quite prominent in our society, right? It's all about you. And so my ego tells me that I'm really different, but am I really? You know, like I think stripping away all the layers, stripping away all the identity stuff, we're just human fundamentally. And what we connect around are our sense of belonging, sense of love, sense of openness. Those are all things, happiness, those are all things that we all want to strive for.